Because somebody here might be asking, oh, pastor, how is it that God that happens to know the end from the beginning, that knew that Adam was going to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, now decided to put that tree there? Pastor, do they ask those kind of questions in church? What we are not seeing is a layout of a kingdom. And in this kingdom, every being that God created that happens to have a will was tested. It was in the test that angels were tested, that a quadrant of those angels failed the test. All was on the basis of a failure of a test that God gave to angels because they had a will. Every angel that fell was an angel that exercised his will contrary to the will of God. And if angels were tested, humankind also will have to be tested. And that's why that tree happens to be in the midst of the garden, so that every one of us will be placed in a position where you will have to exercise your sovereign will. What we were not told was that the direction from whence you exercise your will determine your lines of development. I said that the proof, you know, the Bible calls that fruit tree of what? Knowledge of good and evil. That's a convenient way of saying death. There are only two options left. One tree is called the tree of life. The other one is what? The tree of death. But it's a convenient way. Because this death, are you with me? You are not with me. This death of which I speak is not an event. In fact, the way God spoke about death in the book of Genesis was that death was a process. Something that, the protocol of a season. In the day that he eat of this food, God said to Adam when he was trying to educate him, you shall surely die. In Hebrew it reads, in dying ye shall die. Because the way it is rendered in English, you think it's an instantaneous thing, but the way it's rendered in the Hebrew, it actually reveals a process. There is a starting material that initiates the protocol of death, and death begins to gain dominion, begins to gain space, begins to gain perspective, begins to subdue, begins to dominate until the entire protocol of death is accomplished and the will of death comes to pass. Angels were tested. We were not told the test that all the other angels were tested, but the Bible, through a prophetic vision that Isaiah had, revealed how Lucifer was tested.